Secret Life of Sunflowers, there is a scene where one of the protagonists is trying to promote Vincent van Gogh's paintings to people in Holland. I am reading the book and I'm going to do a formal review, but I wanted to use this scene to discuss the topic of design and how to hit that sweet spot of progress and acceptability. In other words, how can you move the general acceptance of a design forward and on the other hand also still be accepted? It's a very fine line. People like Franz von Holthausen, the chief designer of Tesla, Johnny Ive at Apple, they must have they're facing that problem all the time. And I think in this book, the author does a great job in portraying the struggles of selling Vincent van Gogh to his contemporaries. Now, I believe this is not a new story in the sense that I think Van Gogh's life has been used often as a metaphor for people who try hard and can succeed in their lifetimes and then subsequently become incredibly important and famous. So this is not new, but I really like the idea of I like the portrayal of how this woman. Okay, let me give away just a little bit. I think I'm not. This is not a thriller or suspense novel anyway. So the Secret Life of Sunflowers. It's a novel. It's a sort of bi-directional novel. Like maybe not bi-directional. It has two stories in there. One is Vincent van Gogh and family around him, and then there's a lady, a contemporary lady that reads the diaries of a person that is close to Vincent van Gogh, and the book goes back and forth between today and the past. And I think you know. Again, I'm going to do a formal review of the book, so this is not meant to be the review here. What I'm trying to say here is that what the book is trying to depict here is the struggle of a woman to be accepted, and it's being used as or the art is a surrogate of it. So I believe the way I interpret the Vincent van Gogh side of this book is that people just have to be ready to accept something, and whether it's art or women or women's opinions or whatever it may be, society has to be ready for acceptance. And then sometimes it is ready, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we can push it down the throat of people, like in communism or right now with wokeism. But nevertheless, there is always a certain readiness. Society has to be ready. I think it goes also, it's in line with my theory of literature. That is, I mean, it's not my theory, but it's my views that are borrowed from a gentleman from Ohio State University. I forgot his name, an English professor, who says that literature reflects the views of the zeitgeist. So literature doesn't form the zeitgeist; it reflects the views. Now, I believe it's probably more of a back and forth here. But back to the design part of things, and I just want to focus on Vincent van Gogh here. And again, I'll do a formal review of the book, The Secret Life of Sunflowers, a bit later. So, but the problem or the situation is simply you have paintings of Vincent van Gogh that should be sold or hung in museums, and the contemporaries are not ready to accept it. And I feel like this is a nice metaphor for the general problem of anybody who wants to move forward with society, whether it's in the arts or in design or in business, architecture. Buckminster Fuller was a great example of that. Like you want to move forward, and you have to try to find that sweet spot where you're accepted by society, and on the other hand, you move forward. And I want to discuss this topic a little bit more in general. This is not even on podcast. It's March 10th, 2024. This is Krim Telco. It's a Sunday. No updates for the year. We are down 17.8%. 8%. The market is up 7.5%, around performing by 26.3%. So I want to parse this problem into sort of three buckets. One is I want to talk about the Van Gogh situation. Then I want to bring in the sort of general topic of acceptance, like Buckminster Fuller or John Ive, and then I want to focus on Tesla and in particular the Cybertruck, because I feel like the Cybertruck is a massive endeavor to really move perception, design, acceptance, all these kinds. I can see it. Let's say my wife is ambivalent about the Cybertruck. She's a big Tesla fan. So it is definitely an edgy product that is, maybe not ready or ready. It's a little bit maybe like the early Metallica music or even the early grunge music, or back in the day, maybe, I don't know, whatever it may have been. In the arts, we have, maybe not Picasso, is another, Vincent van Gogh is a great example. Maybe more recent art, I could think of, I don't know. I'm not versed in the art world anymore, so I would think, let's say, Joseph Beuys must have been perceived very similar. Maybe even Duchamp back in the 20s, when art was being redefined and society had to open up to new representations of aesthetics and life. There's also a very interesting book that I think I want to reread, which is The Painted Word by Tom Wolfe. I think that sort of fits into this narrative because it shows how society, also how the process of acceptance works through the art world and society. So there's definitely a reciprocity here between the art and the society. It's not like society is ready and then the art, fills in the buckets. I think it's a back and forth. So let's start with the Van Gogh story. So Vincent van Gogh paints his paintings, kills himself, and is kind of left with nothing. And then these paintings end up in the hands of a lady, and that lady is related to Vincent through marriage, and she is fundless. She doesn't have funds. She has a child she's a widow. She's not Vincent van Gogh's wife, but she's related. She ends up with all those paintings, and she wants to preserve Vincent's legacy and also make some money. She needs to live. She's being completely ridiculed by her contemporaries. And in the book, I think Marta Molnar is probably putting on a feminist spin here. She's being ridiculed because she's a woman, and those sorts of topics, which certainly in the 19th century probably were the case. But I think you can totally relate to this situation today, whether woman or man or whatever gender you have. You can be ridiculed just simply by promoting something that is not ready, right? Or where society has a problem. I can see that in Europe when I talk to people about Tesla. Tesla is that kind of product in Europe. Yeah, Tesla is not accepted, not even because of politics or anything. It's just a little bit too much of a forward design. It's slick. I mean, we don't need to talk about the details of the Tesla design. This is not a Tesla review podcast by any means. This is really very similar to Apple and Johnny Ive when he designed the Macs and then later on the iPads and iPhones and so on and so forth. It's more like, I think it was Schopenhauer who said it: first you're ridiculed, then you're accepted, then you're tolerated, and finally you're idealized, which is sort of the process of accepting novelty, which is again ridicule, toleration, and then idealization. So this is where Tesla lives right now, and I find it really amazing that if you really look at who is actually accepting Tesla right now, it's primarily wealthy Chinese people. So the Tesla design, the Tesla Zeitgeist, the design and the product is promoting, seems to resonate most powerfully with Chinese people, and that's who would have thought, right? Now, certainly it also resonates in Silicon Valley, in California, but it does not resonate in Europe, and it does not resonate even in the East Coast of the United States. It resonates somewhat in Texas. So it's very interesting how certain new things happen here in California, and then they proliferate throughout the world. And by the way, this applies to not just products and services. Um, this is similar to skiing, extreme skiing, climbing, free solo, surfing. Surfing started in Hawaii, but it was popularized in California. Free solo stuff, the whole thing that Alex Honnold does. I mean, this has been around in the Alps for centuries. But the coolness, the actual culture has grown here. Certainly, it's proliferating now, and it's very interesting. Uh, let's take another example: extreme marathon running, right? Those ultra marathons. They started here in the United States, of course, in California, Western states. The first ultra marathon that goes from Olympic Valley, Tahoe, to Auburn in here in California. It doesn't matter. It's a 100-mile race. Starts here. Interesting story, by the way, how that started, and then now we have races all over the world, and most of the top racers, they're not American. They're French, European, German, whatever. So it's same with, let's say, triathlons. I believe triathlons actually started in Hawaii. I'm not sure, but I'd be pretty sure that the people who started it had some roots in California. So this place here has this ability to absorb newness and absorb this progressive design of things. But again, I'm generalizing here, so I hope you understand the connection between an ultra marathon and Tesla. It's not that it's the same thing by any means, but the process of accepting a new thing, of hitting that sweet spot between curiosity, um, the cool thing of being new, but also accepting it. Okay, we always have to be able to accept it. For example, there are things that I have trouble accepting as a person. Let's say I am not an Amazon Prime member. These are things I just culturally repeal. I can't do it. I am not accepting. I'm not a gamer. I'm not a video gamer. It just bores me. I can't. It's a big zeitgeist. I'm even invested in a company that is incredibly important in the world of video games, but I'm not interested in it. There are things that I don't subscribe to. I don't subscribe to, golf. Okay, fine, maybe that's different, but like there are new things. It's not like I am jumping on every bandwagon that is out there, but sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So I think the story of Vincent van Gogh is therefore a pretty nice allegory of the struggle of acceptance, the struggle of bringing newness to the table. And there's a scene in the book where the lady that is trying to promote his paintings and is being rejected all over the place decides to go to America. And I want to leave it at that because I find it a beautiful example. Now, the symbol here is it's not America in a geographic sense. It's America in a spiritual sense, the newness, the acceptance. And back then, America was what California is today for America. California is to America what America is to the world. That's number one. I think also important here is the Chinese factor. So we are now actually witnessing a new development in this, let's say, workflow of acceptance of newness, which is we have a upper middle class in China, whether it's in China or here in California, Asians that are here, that is proliferating a new design and a new zeitgeist. And I find that really amazing. This is a very interesting development. And I would think that we will see more and more movies, which we see, and books and things like that, written by Asian Americans, Chinese. You can throw in Korea here too. Not with all respect to Korea, I'm not saying it's all the same. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying the culture, that zeitgeist. Okay, this is not moving nationalities. It's just the zeitgeist of an upper middle class person from Korea and China seems to be very similar. It's this readiness for new, acceptance for new, maybe also tied to the past. Tesla has that too. It's in the name Tesla. The name is not XYZ or something, it's Tesla. So there is this heritage of past innovation. In fact, there is, this is a very nice connection. Even Thomas Edison is the inspiration of this lady to go to America. So she reads about Thomas Edison inventing the kinescope or whatever it is, basically the predecessor of the camera. And then she wants to go to the U.S. and promote the paintings in the U.S. And Thomas Edison was famously working with Tesla. So these people, they seem to have this spark of newness and change and a new world and all of these things embedded in them. So that's, I think, the first thing I want to talk about here. The second thing now, I want to talk about sort of the general aspect of promoting what it means to promote, in particular, design. Okay, let's focus on design now. And I think there's another book, The Painted Word, that has that same spirit. It's trying to, in The Painted Word, Tom Wolfe is, I think, really nicely depicting how newness proliferates. There's also a beautiful book, The Most Important Painting in the World, which talks about Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, a Picasso painting that has changed the art world. So there are these pivotal points in art that have a sort of root of a newness that then proliferates and compounds. And how that happens, I think it'd be interesting to study that. I don't have a particular opinion now, but you can kind of feel it. And Tesla has that. And now this is the third thing I want to talk about Tesla specifically. And maybe also contrast it a little bit. What else is out there? If you look at the Tesla design, first the regular Teslas and then the Cybertruck. Clearly, Tesla is always pushing the boundaries of this frontier of acceptance, progress, and history. The Tesla Model S still has more tradition than the Model 3 and certainly the Cybertruck. Interestingly enough, we see copycats in China, and it's not just the Chinese are copying and blah, blah, blah. It's not that. I think they do appreciate the zeitgeist that Tesla is promoting, versus a Rivian isn't, and certainly not any of the legacy car makers, whether they're in Germany or whether they're here. So this is interesting in its own. We believe that in its own, this design feature of Tesla is an interesting point, I think highly underrated also on Wall Street, for example, because when you have a zeitgeist defining product, well, then you have the potential to become the zeitgeist. And if you become the zeitgeist, particularly in a product, in product space, you get the scale, you get the cost of goods sold down, you get margins, you can actually generate a lot of wealth. It's a risky project. We're suffering right now, tremendously right now, actually, because there seems to be a lack of acceptance of Teslas for whatever reason here in the US and around the world. It could be macro. There's also the risk that maybe the zeitgeist is moving. For that to happen, though, we believe there should be something new, which we don't see. So what's going on is, I would say, it's just sort of retro counter. What was the counter reformation, right? So when you have this newness, then there's always, it's kind of like a sinus wave a little bit, where you have a little bit of a backlash until the newness proliferates itself with new force. And I think we're sort of in that lull right now, which of course is difficult. And that's why a lot of people are saying you should not buy, you should get out of Tesla for now and then buy it back when it recovers, blah, blah, blah. This is not about the stock here. This is really about the design. So I think, again, the Tesla design, I guess to summarize this third part, Tesla design part of my episode here, it's Tesla is in the process of redefining design and zeitgeist for products. And it's doing that by changing functionality and shape, adding software. We spoke about the software-defined car, which is really what Tesla is in. So Tesla is creating a new product, and it's the software-defined car with new functionality and new design, which is proliferating in China, in California, and to a slower extent everywhere else. The question now is, how long is it going to take for everywhere else to pick up? That is an open question. but I think the probability that will happen is very high, and this is really what matters. So to summarize this whole episode, we are connecting an interesting episode in the book, The Secret Life of Sunflowers, where Vincent van Gogh's paintings are being rejected by contemporaries, and there's a protagonist in the book trying to cement his legacy, and it's interesting to see that process, and the author does a really good job in depicting that. We're then talking about how generally design has this zeitgeist moment, and that it proliferates in typically it was the west coast of the United States, and there's a new thing now where there's Chinese culture infiltrating into this sort of west coast feeling of newness and proliferating a new zeitgeist, which probably is a sign that there is enough Chinese or Asian, let's say Asian, because I think Korea can be added to this feeling of newness, and this acceptance of newness is proliferating through Asian culture. Again, it's combined with the California culture. These two cultures are melting, and it'd be interesting to find the sort of eigenvectors here. Well, which ones are they? Is it the we're trying to depict that? Is it because you have that same feeling that say amongst Russian engineers here in Silicon Valley also? So it's maybe education, maybe techno files, maybe also maybe people that don't have a lot of legacy in terms of products and services and designs. They come from countries that didn't have that, i.e. communist countries, and so they're not married to the old BMW or Mercedes. It could be, it's interesting to think further in that. But finally, Tesla is him. Tesla is doing exactly that. Whether the people around Musk and Franz von Holthausen are deliberately choosing to do that, or whether they are sort of stumbled into this. So are they Van Gogh or are they Picasso? As a contrast, Picasso deliberately wanted to do new things, and he was able to do it, or whether they more stumbled into it. That is probably not even that important, but what's important is that they are pushing the envelope, and that is very exciting from a zeitgeist perspective and also from an investor perspective. Thank you.